Good morning. I am really grateful to be here today. I have been asked to come and just share a little bit of my life's journey and one thing that I have learned along the way. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. My name is Mimi Amaral. I will be recording this and putting it on the website. It's Mimi, psy-g.com. If you would like to review it, feel free to go to the website anytime. In about 2 weeks, I should have it up there. Today, I would like to share just a little bit of how I think and what I believe. So first, I would like to just say that I believe that innately we have an inner knowing that we're born with that helps guide us through our journey of life. For example, when I was about 6 years old, I remember standing at my parents' house in the kitchen in my environment watching what was happening. And I was just gazing in and looking at everything that was going on. And I remember hearing this inner whisper saying, "Never do that." So that was the first time that I was conscious of that inner knowing, that inner guidance. And from that moment on, I did my best to stay very mindful to be open to hear that. However, I think many of us and most of us are conditioned out of hearing that whisper, that inner knowing, due to conditioning, due to culture, due to societal beliefs and projections, friends' beliefs, and also projections from inherited ancestral beliefs that are passed down generation to generation. Today I'd like to basically share what I had learned, and I had learned to disagree. I had to go within to understand that I had the right to agree or disagree with what was going on or occurring along my journey of life. Now, I would like to note at the top here, it says, "Do not do what I say or what I have done," because the experience that I have had, the journey that I have had, is my journey, and it is not potentially healthy or helpful for anyone else. This is just what my inner knowing said to do for my journey. So what I'm about to share is not a recommendation or a suggestion. This was something that my inner knowing, my higher self, let me know that I needed to do to continue a healthy journey on my path. So I'm going to just start off. I'm not going to get into detail about the health and wellness of my journey. I'm just going to give little snapshots so you know basically what has come along and what I have endured in my path, and then how I got to the point where I decided to disagree. I was born with congenital medical issues that were not discovered until later on. So as a child, I was basically sick all the time. I would catch everything. I would run 103 fevers. I would be in the hospitals and doctor's offices more than I ever went to school. So every time I would get sick, my parents or my mom would take me to the doctors, and the doctor would just give me an antibiotic or give me some medicine for the symptom, and never basically looked into what the cause was. So, 3, 4, 5, 10, 7, 11, I'm sick all the time. I'm basically in bed or at a hospital or in a doctor's office more than I'm doing anything. So finally, my parents were like, "What is going on with her?" And the doctor back then said, "Well, every family has a sickly one, she'll grow out of it." So yet again, nobody's looked into, well, why is she sick? What is the cause? So at approximately 15 and a half, my illnesses basically reared their head, and I got so sick that I was transferred into a hospital in San Francisco. When I got there, they ran a whole bunch of tests, and came back to me at my hospital bed, and the doctor looked at me straight in the eye and said, "You have 6 months to live. Do you want to die in the hospital, or do you want to die at your house?" Well, I'm 15 and a half. I won't share what my inner knowing said because it was a little snarky, but I looked at the doctor and said, "I want to die at the house." So the doctor, the hospital was not allowed to release me to my parents or back to the house until a list of items were taken care of at the house. There had to be a sterilized room for me. There had to be, certain medications that were picked up. The house had to be completely sterilized. There was a lot that my parents had to do to get me to get back to the house. So I was basically at the San Francisco hospital, I would say approximately for about 5 weeks. After that, the doctor said, "Okay, you can come get her, but again, we only give her about 6 months." So they released me from the hospital in San Francisco with many medications in the morning, many medications at night, and the condition that I would every single week go to a doctor near me and get 5 different shots of medications that they thought I needed. So we did that, and then I had to go back periodically. I think it was every 6 weeks I had to go back and check in with the San Francisco doctor. So 6 months came and went, and I was still here, which the doctors did not think that I would be here. They were serious about me not living for more than 6 more months. So at that point, at the 6-month mark, and I didn't succumb to death, basically the doctor said, "Okay, well, you're never going to live into your 20s, but we would like to do some tests on you." So from that point on, literally, I became a science project, and Western medicine did as much as they could do to figure out what was going on. Anywhere from medications, IV therapy, they did surgeries on me, they did exploratory surgeries on me, they took biopsies, you name it. I'm not joking, I was literally a science project for Western medicine. So I'm going along, I'm agreeing to do all this because my parents basically agreed, and I'm 16, 17, I'm not an adult yet, I can't, say, "Hey, I'm not gonna do this anymore." So I'm basically agreeing and co-creating this situation with them. So thinking that, okay, I'm gonna get better, this is gonna help. I didn't succumb to the 6 months, I'm still here. So, let's just keep going, let's try everything. So at that point, 16 came around, 17 came around, nothing is getting better, my body's getting weaker. That inner voice is not just a whisper anymore, but more of a like, "Hello, there's more." And that's what I kept hearing over and over as my body got weaker and weaker and sicker and sicker. And I would go from 90 pounds to 85 pounds. Finally, I was down to 79 pounds. They did another IV therapy. And he said, "Okay, well, we're done." The doctor said, "Okay, we're done. We're gonna do this again next week." And literally, that inner voice stopped whispering and yelled, "You're gonna die." And that was the first time I heard that inner voice say, "You're gonna die." Meaning, if I continue this, I'm not gonna make it. That the medicine that they were trying to do, though everybody was hoping and thinking it was helping, it was not, it was making me worse. So I looked at the doctor and I said, "I'm not doing this anymore." And the doctor said, "What?" I said, "Take my blood. It's making me worse. I'm not doing this anymore." And so they took my blood, and when it all came back, all the test results showed that actually it was making me worse. So when I decided at 19 and a half-ish, I was about 19 and a half, that, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do it like this anymore. This is just making me sick. Even that voice inside that I've always kind of tried to be mindful enough to connect with and check in, like, Do I agree with this? What's going on? How do I feel? Basically just said, you keep going down this road, you're not going to make it. So I had to find my voice. I had to learn how to disagree, because if I would have gone that way, I honestly believe I would not be standing here today. I honestly believe I would not be able to share this with you. So in that moment, when I told the doctor, I'm done, I then had to tell my family that I was done, my parents. So that was not the easiest thing for me to do. However, what happened next was something that I needed to hear. I needed the reality check, but I was also ready, because if I wasn't ready to hear what was going to happen next, it wouldn't have happened. I would have just kept on going, and then I would have died, like, you know, the doctors had said. But I went to my parents and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to live, or I'm going to live to die, but I'm not doing this. I'm not going to the doctors all the time. I'm not going to have all these medications flooding my body. I'm not going to go through surgeries. I'm not going to go through testing anymore. I'm just not going to do it this way anymore. So before I go further, allow me to say, I'm not here to talk about my medical journey, because that's not what this is about. This is about learning to have a voice and learning to disagree. So what I do want to say before I move on is, for me, my life journey is a spectrum, and that means, and medically speaking as well, and that means Western medicine to holistic medicine to spirituality, meditation, and everything. It cannot, for me, be one category. It's variables and ingredients from the entire spectrum that has allowed me to be here, homeostasis, harmonized, standing in front of you today, being able to speak to you with still the congenital, on paper, the congenital medical diseases that I have, but still be able to be healthy enough to participate in life. So it's not just that I'm against Western, it's just not the sole answer for my journey, or for my body, or for my biochemistry. Each individual, I feel, has their own recipe of life along the spectrum. And I had to figure that out. And I had to advocate for myself and learn to disagree with what everybody else decided was for me. So that leads me to basically the point of agreement and learning to disagree. So when I spoke to my parents and I said what I said, I'm gonna live to live or live to die, what happened next was unexpected, but also needed. I needed to hear it. And what my parents said was, okay, well, if you do this, you're on your own. If you make this decision, you're on your own. And some of you might be thinking, ouch, wow. But don't think like that, because again, I needed to hear it. And yeah, ouch. What stings the heart clears the vision, is what I feel, okay? And it's not that they didn't love me. They did, and they still do. But what it was, and it came clear to me, what it was they were in agreement. They were in agreement with everything the doctors were saying. And that meant that they never thought I could be anything other than sickly and die. They saw me as being a sick child, into a sick teenager, into a sick adult, and then just dying. An adult meaning not even barely an adult, 20 years old. So because they were in agreement and they couldn't see past what they had agreed with, I understood that this was my fork in the road. It wasn't theirs, it was mine. I needed to either follow that path and be in agreement with everybody else, or take the other path and decide, okay, I'm just gonna trust I can't do any better or worse than anybody else is doing at this point. So I might as well trust that inner voice and take the first step and keep going. And in my heart, I kept hold of the thought, with every shining night and moonlit night, there was an opportunity or potential for a sun-filled day. And I just held on to that, and I kept walking. So out of respect for what my parents were feeling, and because I'm a human who is not going to try to convince somebody of something I see, I'm not going to maneuver or guilt or fear-base or try to get someone else to think how I'm thinking. I wanted to love them and understand where they were at on their journey and how they were thinking and respect that, but I also wanted to honor and respect my own soul and my own guidance. So basically, I moved out. And from that moment on, the spark of curiosity and observation turned into a flame, and it has been burning ever since. I started questioning and looking at everything so differently. So then I started thinking, okay, well, what is agreement? Okay, well, agreement, as stated here, is anything true, conscious or unconscious. Okay, and also conditioned, projected thoughts and behaviors. Okay, so if you're in agreement, let's say, okay, here's one that many have heard, and I think many, get stuck in, is the relationship thing. Okay, well, relationships are hard. You have to work on them. You're married. You can't leave, even though it's an unhealthy relationship or unfulfilling relationship. I just have to work on it. I have to keep trying. So those are kind of conditioned thoughts and beliefs that are passed down generation to generation to many of us. Okay, so again, what is an agreement? I'm just going to read this. Anything we believe to be true, consciously or unconsciously. Also, conditioned, projected, and inherited wounds from parents. Okay, projected, inherited wounds. Ancestral wounds, passed down generation to generation. So here again are some just general examples of conditioning or projections that can be, given to each of us as we are growing up. I can't leave this relationship. What will everybody think? Okay, that's a very common one that I started talking to everybody and asking and observing. And these are a lot of the things that I heard from friends, from family members, and it just kind of made sense. Like, okay, we're in agreement. So are we in agreement? Is this our agreement, or are we going along because we were conditioned and it was projected into us and we haven't questioned if we agree or we don't agree, because we don't realize we're able to actually go within us and ask, do I agree with this? Another one, you're not making wise choices. Okay, so I've heard that many of us have heard this right here, which is a projection, because by the time we started hearing you're not making wise choices, we were 5 or 6 or 7 years old, and we weren't even old enough to make choices at that point. So it kind of made me wonder, okay, what did you do, Ma, that you're holding and now you're projecting into me saying I'm not making wise choices? When I get older, I'm going to ask you, what did you do to make you say that to me? I was 7, So stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. I'm not going to go through all of these, but these, go ahead and read. These are some of the things that, we've been conditioned. We've been projected in, and it's been projected into us. And we're carrying these, and we don't even question, where did this come from? And I guess today I would just like to share my story, because when I began to question, okay, do I agree with this? Where did this come from? And I just started being extremely observant of my environment and those around me. I was looking, and I discovered that a lot of the things that are said or done, or I ask a question and then I get some input from someone on a subject, it's actually coming from a place where they were conditioned, they were projected into believing and behaving in certain ways, and then that is just being reiterated out. And I'm not sure if they agree with that themselves, or if they've actually asked themselves if they agree, or if they're just in the pattern of conditioned behavior and conditioned thinking. So these are all the things that started when I decided to disagree with everybody and realize that I was playing the role as the sickly family member because that was what everybody was comfortable with. Everybody was in agreement that, oh, Mimi is just sickly, she's just gonna die. She can never be more than that. And that's not a bad thing, it's just something they were comfortable with. It was something that they placed me in a role, in a conditioned behavioral patterned role and story that made them feel safe, but honestly was not the whole of who I was as a human being. And nobody can see the whole of who I was as a human being because I was agreeing with it at the time, and I was continuing to have the patterns and the behaviors, and I wasn't questioning it because I didn't know I was able to. And granted, medically speaking, scientifically speaking, absolutely, those conditions are on paper, they're real. I still have every condition possible that was, on diagnosed back then, still have them. Scientifically speaking, you take my blood, still says the same thing. But now I'm not in agreement. Now I'm not adhering to, I'm a sickly human. I disagreed. So I want to share the potential freedom of actually going within instead of seeking outside ourselves or outside myself, as I did, and find the courage to go within and ask, what do I think? Do I agree with this? Whatever this may be. It could be a lifestyle, it could be a job, it could be a relationship, it could be having children or not having children. It could be any subject. Go within instead of seeking answers or input outside, because the answers and input from outside may be tainted, may be viewed from cultural beliefs or wounds that have not been healed from others, and they're coming from a place of a conditioned, trauma-based or not trauma-based, just conditioned and projected, inherited place of opinion or perspective, which is not bad either, but we have to be aware that that's a possibility. So if we do get variables outside, we can question, okay, does this fit for me? Is this something I agree with? And if it doesn't resonate, then let it go. So again, these are just general examples. And I'm really, really grateful again to be here today and be able to share my journey. And my choice, because it's a choice to agree or disagree. And again, that fork in the road was such a beautiful gift for me, because I realized that I did have a choice. Free will, for some say free will doesn't exist, but I do believe free will is a possibility, and that with free will there's choice. And with each choice we make, we learn and grow and expand on our journey until we come to another fork in the road where we need to make another pivotal decision or pivotal move. And hopefully we're making choices along our path and learning and growing with every step that we take. I personally have so much to learn still, and I hope I learn and expand and challenge myself to grow to the last breath that I have. I would like to, if you want to, again, this is choice. Those who don't want to do a little brief meditation do not have to. Those who want to, feel free to either close your eyes if you feel safe and comfortable, or just find a little spot in front of you and just do a soft gaze. I like this meditation because it helps to bring just awareness to the inner voice, the inner knowing. And if you don't hear something right away, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But just what I would like you to do is just take a deep breath in for the moment, a slow deep breath, and then hold it at the top for 5 seconds. And then when you're done with the 5 seconds, just exhale. And let's do this a few times just to calm the nervous system and allow some quiet within our space. Inhale. Hold it for 5 seconds. Exhale. We'll do that one more time, and just keep your eyes closed if they're closed, or soft gaze in front of you. Inhale. Hold it at the top for 5 seconds. Exhale. Okay, now just breathe gently, normal breath in and out. And if you can, just allow something, anything to come into your mind that you have been in agreement with. It could be anything that was on the list, or anything else that was said in childhood, or in your teenage years, or even recently in adulthood. Just something that you've agreed with. When it comes to mind, just hold it lightly and gently in your mind. Breathe gently. Okay, now hold it and slowly open your eyes, or bring your gaze to the projector here. And just ask yourself, am I in agreement? Or is that little voice inside of you saying there's something more? There's something else. And then ask yourself, does this agreement hold me back from my highest potential? For me, until I realized that I had an option, a choice to agree or disagree, I wasn't aware that it was not allowing me to embrace the best life I could have, or the best possible me that could be within me. Because everybody around me was in agreement, I didn't know anything different. And if I didn't go inside and hear that little voice saying there's more for years, there's more, there's more. You know, every hospital stay, every IV hookup, every surgery I went into, there's more, that little voice, there's more, there's more. And then finally that last IV infusion, where basically that inner voice yelled at me, you're gonna die. If I didn't listen, I would not be standing here. Truly believe that. All my heart and soul. So I'm grateful that I was able to be courageous enough to listen, go within and listen to that little voice, that whisper, that connection to my higher self, the cosmic realms, God, source, whatever anybody wants to identify it as. Now again, as I spoke before with the medical spectrum, for me, life is a spectrum. Everything about life is a spectrum. And for me, it has to include ingredients along the entire spectrum of mind, heart, body, soul, environment. It has to include everything. I can't just be in one camp. I have to take the ingredients and be a whole human being, experience a whole human experience. So the last thing I want to end with is, if it resonates, cool, take what resonates. If it doesn't, toss it. Because you have a choice to agree or disagree. But I would like to encourage you to dare to disagree with something that may or may not be resonating inside of you. If you have that little voice about something, a relationship, there's got to be more. Or a job, there's got to be more. Or, anything, advocate for yourself. Go within. Get variables outside. Do all your research. Do your due diligence. And then check in within you. Don't go without and just get the answers on the outside. Go within and say, does this resonate with me? Because honestly, what I discovered and what I personally believe is that everyone, doctors, lawyers, family, friends, society, and even our parents, they are just souls in a human body, having a human experience, trying to figure out their journey of life, just like me, just like you. Nobody has the answers for my journey other than me. And I have lessons, and I have bumps in the road, and I have to grow from these lessons and bumps in the road to expand into the human that I aspire to be each day. And powers that be willing, hopefully I'll be here for a long time and learning and growing with every breath and every step. Thank you so much for letting me be here today. I can answer questions outside if anybody has any. And I'm truly, truly, truly grateful to have been able to share my story. Thank you very much. Have a great day.